Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fittest. I'm super excited to have my guest today, IFBB Fitness Pro, Ariel Khadr. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to the show. We've been trying to do
Thank
this
you.
for a while now, and I'm just so I feel very privileged that you took the time now because you're how many weeks out now is it?
4, a little less than 4. Yeah.
This is usually like for the average competitor, kind of when you just die, like the last 4 weeks.
That's funny. Yeah,
What-
honestly, I'm counting down the days because for me, I'm like, I try to look at my routine practice. Like, okay, now it's like I have 21 days basically to allocate these days to like doing my routine. I'm probably not going to take off many from doing my routine, which is really taxing on your physique. I mean, on your body, and just, I don't know, it's kind of good and it's bad because mentally I'm like, I feel better because I'm like more equipped, obviously, doing my routine. And I feel mentally good about my routine when I'm practicing, but like physically I'm just like, no. Reminds me of when I did gymnastics.
Oh yeah. I mean, gymnastics is such an endeavor because it's like literally you school and then you go to gymnastics for the rest of your waking hours, right? So we're going to talk about your background and your athletic background a little bit, but I just want to remind people, I think that the fitness category is so underrated because
Thank you.
Anyone who's done contest prep knows how exhausting it is, especially the last 6 weeks and then beyond, I would say. But for you guys to be putting that performance aspect in there is, when your body is absolutely depleted, it's absolutely incredible. It's mind-boggling to me. So
thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult, and it's like it takes a lot of practice to really nail it down.
yeah.
Well, I should say.
So let's talk a little bit about your beginnings and your background. So what kind of sports did you play growing up? And like you were mentioning gymnastics, what is the background that helped build this physique?
Sure. So I started off in gymnastics. I think I was like 4 or 5. And eventually my parents put me in taekwondo also. So I was like 6 or 7 when I started taekwondo. So simultaneously I was doing gymnastics competitively and taekwondo competitively. And even at one point, fitness as a junior, I was 10 years old when I started competing in fitness, all at the same time. So I guess a lot happened to kind of like, by the time I was 15, 16, I eventually chose gymnastics. I had an incident that happened in taekwondo that kind of made me like get turned off essentially to the sport. And I just was like, I'm going to get a scholarship for gymnastics. I'm not going to do anything with taekwondo unless I go to the Olympics, which I didn't love it enough to do that, honestly. So I loved gymnastics at that time anyway. And I chose gymnastics over taekwondo, which honestly I kind of regret now. And I was also competing, like I said, in fitness at 10. I did, there was another organization internationally that does like juniors. And so I competed with that organization. And then Fitness America had a junior pageant really just for me and another girl that my coach was like kind of friends with some people in the industry. And she was like trying to get junior fitness kind of off the ground. So they let us do a show there. So I had experience in fitness at a young age. I won Miss Junior Fitness International at 11, which I think is kind of ironic because it's not the same industry, obviously, in the same organization. I mean, it's the same industry, but it's not the same organization. But there's nobody that's won Miss Junior Fitness International and also won Miss Fitness International. And there's literally like almost 20 years later, essentially. So my background was in competitive gymnastics, competitive taekwondo, fitness in between that, but mainly gymnastics and taekwondo.
Okay. So you started competing at 11, and is that similar to like, do you have like a stage thing or is it just the performance aspect? How is that set up?
Yeah, so for that, the way they had it back then, I mean, I've actually seen in Europe where kids are wearing a swimsuit, and I'm kind of like, not sure how I feel about that, to be honest, but because when I competed, it was somewhat of a pageant, because I think in Fitness America, like they used to have like where you wear an evening gown too and stuff. So like the fitness routine round was really important because they actually judged it, like your skills, like they judged everything, like seriously. And so they had a sportswear round instead of a swimwear round. And then they also had the evening gown with like you had to make a speech. So it was kind of like intense, really, especially for the age range at that point was like the oldest girl there was like 15. So it was like 10 to like 15-year-olds. They were all incredible, honestly. I wish I had like a full tape of that.
Oh, yeah. What year was that when you were, so you were 11?
That was in 2004.
Okay.
Like I was just almost shy of 12. I'm born in 1992, but yeah, I was still 11. It's like when I got my pro card. It was like a week after I turned 17, a week before.
So crazy. You're like in the top 5 of women in the industry who have gotten like are you the youngest?
Yeah, I was the youngest to ever get their pro card.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Okay. So, well, it sounds intense, and it's so much for somebody who's 11 years old, like it's almost like a full on beauty pageant, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's funny because I liked being on stage and I liked performing. Like I liked doing gymnastics. I liked the floor routine part of it. So even when I did taekwondo, I didn't really like I did like sparring and I liked like the sport itself. But what I actually liked was our, I guess like the taekwondo place. We would do like performances all over the place. So like I was always the one that was like doing like round off back handspring and like breaking boards, or like the kid that jumps over like 7 or 8 kids and like kicks a board. So like I would like doing that because I was like the star, honestly, of like the performance, and it was performing. I've always liked performing, really. Like when I was a kid, I used to make my grandmother and my mom sit down and I'd put music on and like make them watch me dance around. Like I've always been like that. So like I'm shy, but like when you put me on stage, I'm like a completely different person. So
yeah.
I think that's what I actually liked, is
Yeah.
the performing part of it. So when I was 11, I mean, it was intense, but like to me, actually, fitness was like easy compared to gymnastics and taekwondo. Like I thought it was so easy. I was like, this is so much fun. It's so easy. Like I don't have to worry about like pointing my toes and like I'm gonna get a deduction for like my knees and being bent or something. Like I liked it because it was like more like I could be who I am and they'll appreciate it.
Yeah. The freestyle aspect of it is really, yeah, very cool.
I mean, the
So,
other part of that is like, honestly, I wasn't really, I grew up in like a very bizarre, not, I wouldn't say bizarre, but not normal situation because both my parents and I'm an only child were into bodybuilding. So I was exposed to bodybuilding at like 4 or 5 years old. So for me, it was super normal to be like extremely muscular and like for a woman to be like kind of like a gymnastics body or like muscular, even though back then that wasn't what was cool. Like when I was growing up, it was cool to be like a Victoria's Secret model physique. Like,
yeah.
so, I mean, it was kind of hard for me growing up because like it wasn't considered like hot or sexy as a teenager, like to look muscular. Like,
Yeah.
but nowadays, like that's like probably what's cool. Like if you do like fitness and stuff, they think you're really cool. It's just like amazing how like society has changed really because of social media, actually.
Yeah.
Like social media has hurt a lot of things in a way, but I mean, I guess if I look back at it, it might have been better off for me now when I was that age. To an extent. I mean, it's still like exposing yourself and like being subjected to people's thoughts about you, but like I guess my point is like that type of physique is not in anymore, and I was never built that way. So that was hard growing up too, honestly, and it's something I never spoke about really. But out on a women's podcast, I mean, that's very relatable.
Oh, it's 100% relatable. And I agree that social media has provided a niche for women to be able to relate to other women and to realize like, even the body mass index scale, so many women have, complained about it for 20 years. It's like most
Yeah.
women aren't built with these ratios,
Actually, it's
thicker.
funny you talk about that. How old is your daughter now?
She's 17.
Okay. So like I was like 13, 14 when this happened, but I was a gymnast, so obviously my physique was not much off from what it is now. Obviously I wasn't as lean, but when I went to the doctor when I was like 13, we had to go to like get a physical or something for camp, and the doctor basically told me, and I was a gymnast already, it was like I'm overweight. And like the way that they went about it was just like so negative. And like the first thing I did when I went to camp was like I knew how to I did gymnastics. I knew how to diet by the time I was literally like 10 or 11 years old. But like the way they did it was like so nasty that it was like the only thing I had on my mind when I went to camp was that I'm going to lose like I don't know how much weight I lost, honestly. But like for the 2 weeks that I was there, that's like all I had on my mind. So like that's really like screws up a lot of people, like kids. I mean, I'm sure it's not happened to just me, but sports athletes that are young, like their body mass index is not going to be the same as some kid that's not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a swimmer and on a farm, so I was a farm
Oh
girl.
yeah.
You know, did a lot of work there too, and it's just like, yeah, it was always 10 or 20 pounds heavier than most of the girls my age. But and I grew up in the, you know, high school was in the 90s, so same, yeah, it was like Victoria's Secret models,
Yeah, yeah. Like
and
skinny.
thigh
Yeah.
gap, you know,
Yeah, yeah. That was really important. Yeah. Yeah, MySpace with a thigh gap. Yeah.
I know. And it's like now, I mean, I love when I look on social media and there's all these girls squatting, trying to get big legs and a big butt. It's like, that's how we're naturally, like, I don't know what percentage of us, but are predisposed.
And I feel like, honestly, I don't think there should be like any type of body that anybody should just be like, that's what I should look like. Like, if you're naturally a skinny girl, like, it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm like skinny and I don't have a butt and like I'm not attractive, because everybody on Instagram is like that now. Like, I think it would be the opposite now. If I was tall and skinny, I'd be like, I don't know, like, that's not considered attractive. Like, so like, it's just, you really got to own on, you just got to be like super thankful for who you are and not worry about social media. But that's so easier said than done, was really my point about that.
Well,
But that's, you know,
if you're,
give or take, because social media could be very positive, like, for example, like what you're doing, or like posting positivity or inspiring people, but there's a lot of negativity that comes even from that, like where you're trying to do something positive and somebody else takes it negatively somehow.
yeah.
Like, it's just nothing you could do about it. Like, if I post my picture, like that I won the Arnold in my physique, like someone might look at that as inspiration, and another girl might look at that and say, I'm never going to look like that, and feel bad about themselves. Like, I know that that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And that's sad, but it's just the way it is.
I think that if you can really focus on what your body is designed to be like and do, and healthy behaviors and habits,
Exactly.
then you'll find the path that you're supposed to be on. And that's what I love about social media too, is that there is a place for everybody. I think the part we see is more, you know, the athletic fitness, which I'm so glad that there's a niche for that, because, you know,
Sure.
like you said, we were all trying to like diet and cardio our way into this this image that we thought we were supposed to look like. So I'm glad there's a place for it. But yeah, you're right. Full body acceptance for all healthy physiques should really be, you know, it shouldn't be a decade of this is what physiques are supposed to look like, and now they look like this or whatever. But there's so many.
I mean, it's good that everything's accepted now, because honestly, back then, like, I had a gymnastics coach who was like straight up from Russia once. She was like our dance ballet coach, and she like hit my legs and was like, never train legs. Like, she like, it was like, like, it was so obvious that she thought I was like, my legs were obviously too big, that it was just like, okay. Like, I grew up naturally, like I would have done wellness probably. I mean, if I didn't have any kind of athletic background, I definitely would have done wellness, because that was how I was built.
Did you think about, like, when you think about back then, was that your preference, like, for what you liked as well? Like, even when I was younger, I remember watching gymnasts and like athletes, and I'm just like, even on women, I just aesthetically like a more muscular physique. It just looks really, to me, that looks really healthy. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, I liked it because that's what I kind of like grew up around. Like, my mom was a bodybuilder, and I thought that was really cool because I did gymnastics. So like, to me, being athletic and like that type of body, to me, is athletic looking. So that's what I thought was like what I would want to look like, especially because I could. And then I guess my point is, like, I wasn't tall and skinny, and I wasn't gonna like, or me, I wasn't gonna think I'm gonna look like a supermodel that's gonna walk on the runway. Like, I'm never gonna look like that physically. So even someone that's like that, they're probably never gonna look. They're never gonna be able to compete in bodybuilding, like, and do well, I should say.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta know where your limits are, like what you're gonna be good at.
Yeah, that's why I always like to just encourage women, like, you know, when you focus on your healthy habits and learning how to train, you know, your body is it's gonna find its way as to how it's like supposed to look like, and you're gonna find a nice comfort and balance and all of that too. So
Sure, yeah, for sure.
yeah. So well, let's talk a little bit about your competition history. so you were competing at 11. When did you actually start competing in the NPC?
So I had an injury in gymnastics. I had like 2 bad ankle injuries when I was about 15, almost 16. And honestly, at that point, I was so miserable in gymnastics. I hated gymnastics. I had like I had a bad experience at a gym with coaches, and I was pretty burnt out, honestly. But I was at the point where I was like gonna go get a scholarship for gymnastics. So like, it was like I can't quit gymnastics now. But I had an injury, so I was kind of like sitting out of gymnastics a little bit, and it was the summer, so I decided to do figure, just because I knew I had to do the physique round if I was going to do fitness, and I knew I wasn't going to do figure, I was going to do fitness. But I had experience in fitness with the routine already. I didn't have experience with the physique round because when I was a kid, I didn't have to tan or do anything like that. So I ended up winning the overall at my first show. And it really wasn't probably because of how I looked. I mean, I looked okay. I looked like wellness nowadays, but it was my presentation. Like I knew how to pose. Like it was pretty impressive, honestly, when I look back at that. And I was 15 at that show, I think. Yeah, I was 15 at that show. Then I quickly turned like 16 about a month and a half later. I did, I know I did a national show, and it was like, there was like 40 girls in figure at that time because there was no other division besides fitness and figure. There was no bikini. So I got like second call out at a national show at 16.
What year
Like that's like really difficult. I think that was 2008. Yeah,
Okay.
2008.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I mean, when you
difficult.
look back at it, like my butt and stuff was like, yeah, you're like, you didn't have like, you can't get lean like that at like that age, but upper body wise, like I was pretty good. Yeah, so I placed like 10th or 11th, which out of like 40 girls, that's pretty good. And then I just knew like, obviously I'm not going to do figure, I'm going to do fitness. So the next show I did after that was Steve in New York does like 2 or 3 big shows every year. And this one was the Atlantic States. So that was in 2009. I ended up winning the fitness there. And it just kind of came out the gate really quickly because my routine was Sweet 16 and it was really good. And back then there was no social media, so everything was on RX Muscle, Muscular Development, bodybuilding.com. Like, so if you wanted to know anything about the industry, you were going to go on those sites, and I was all over those sites. So everybody kind of knew who I was at the time. And that was June, and then I ended up getting my pro card in September at the Team Universe. But that was a weird time in my life because I was just turned 17. I was a senior in high school. I had to make sure I secured my scholarship for gymnastics to go to college, and like there was just a lot going on. And like I knew that I could always do fitness, and I wanted to become the youngest person to ever get their pro card, and I did that. And I mean, I think they really wanted me to compete right away, but it is what it is. I didn't. And then I ended up graduating high school. I went to college. I didn't compete throughout the time I was in college. Honestly, I had so many injuries in gymnastics, and mentally I was so burnt out. I just like wanted to be normal, like for once, and experience college like a normal person. I was in college for 5 years, actually, not 4 years. And when I was going into my 5th year, like to finish, I was like, I'm gonna compete at the end of the year. Like I knew in my mind I was probably gonna compete again, like at least when I'm graduated. So I started competing as a pro at the end of 2015 because I graduated in May of 2015, and I quickly competed in October of 2015 at the Phoenix Europa. And I placed 3rd right after Bethany and Whitney, who just came off the Olympia stage. So I think it was a pretty good showing for my first pro show. But I was so nervous. I've never been that nervous in my entire life to get on stage. Like I was literally shaking. And not because I like physically was shaking, like I was that nervous. I mean, I haven't seen Sandy since I was a kid. Like,
yeah. Do you think it was because of the break? Like
absolutely.
you
And the fact that like I felt like I was one person when I came. I mean, in 17, I was one person. The industry changed so much from then to then. The point I got on stage, and then me as a person, obviously, I'm not the same kid as I was when I was 17 to when I'm now 23, or I just turned 23. I couldn't believe I was actually back on stage. Like reality hit that like, okay, I'm back in this now. Like here it comes. Like, cause I've really dreamed of being Miss Olympia for a very long time. It's just, it took me to the point of like, now or never, kind of like what I said about my job earlier when I told you I decided to leave my job. But I I was like, it's now or never. Like either one day I'm going to look back and say I could have, or I'm going to look back and one day and say I did.
Yeah. They just like give me chills. So cool.
Thanks.
I want to ask you about two things. One, so there's been a couple of interviews that I've done with girls who have had a background in gymnastics, and I've known people who put their kids in gymnastics. Do you think it's different now than it was, as far as like, she says no. I'm wondering about that. And I'm also wondering, like, do you have any regrets about that? Do you think it's too much for a kid, or like, is there any way to do like a healthy balance? Because it just seems like there's people come out of that as barely an adult with, no cartilage in their elbows or injuries in their wrists, ankles, all this stuff. It's so intense. Tell me just a little bit, if you can, what you think about all that.
Yeah. So gymnastics is like, I mean, honestly, when all of that stuff happened, I was just like, to me, it made so much sense as to like how it could happen, why it would happen, why nobody would say anything. Like it just, when I trained elite gymnastics, if you were told to go to that camp, like, and you were like allowed to go, that was such an amazing honor that like you would never question the fact that you can't have a cell phone. You're secluded away in some random ranch in Texas, like with these horrendous, they're miserably mean coaches gonna work you to death. Like you just know, but like you're supposed to be such an honor to go there. It's like, so it's all like this like manipulation, because it's so taxing mentally, physically, everything about gymnastics. Like you kind of have to be, it's almost like that kind of like cult mentality that you can kind of get through it, because it's just that difficult. Personally, I always say this like to anybody I date, or I'm like, I'm never putting my kids in gymnastics. So, I mean, if it's a boy or something and you want to do it for fun, yeah, go ahead, because there's nothing you can do with it. Like, you're never going to go to college with gymnastics. Like, you're not going to do anything with it. Just going to be straight up. As a girl, you get sucked in because it's fun. You wear your little leotard, like you got your friends. Like, it's cool to do like back tugs and cartwheels, and like everybody thinks it's cool, and like you just get very sucked into it. And then honestly, I don't think it's the kids so much. I think it's the parents. Truly, I believe everything mostly starts with parents. Like, yeah, your kid's born a certain way, but at the end of the day, like, I really believe it's coming from the parents. Like, anytime there was a problem in the gym, it was because of the parents. Like, it wasn't because of us. Like, it's because the parents are jealous, or the parents did this, or the parents are mad. It's always the parents. Like, it's never the kid. Like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, the kids are the victim.
I mean, I think that's in any sport, though.
Yeah.
Because I don't have experience outside of just gymnastics, I didn't experience that in taekwondo, though. Like, there were no parents like that. Like, it's just a different mentality. I don't know. Like, gymnastics is so, like, ruthless. Like, at the end of the day, we're all supposed to be teammates, but, like, you're really hoping your teammate falls off beam. Like, that's not the way it should be. Like, honestly. So, I mean, it's just not it's fun, but it becomes to the point where it's not fun anymore. And it's stemming from not just the parents, but the coaches. And then your hormones are changing at 12 and 13 years old. And like we had I was in this one gym once where the coach had us wear white leotards, but at the time we were like, I was like 9 or 8. So like our group didn't think about white leotards, but the girls that were 15, they were like, are you kidding me? We have white leotards. Like, yeah. So like things like that is just like, you're subjected to like whatever they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even with the white leotards at that age, that's why I knew how to diet at 10. Because the girls on the team were telling me that my butt was jiggling from the high bar to the low bar because they were jealous of me, because I was the only girl that was like kind of muscular, and that's why I was able to do like the best vaults and floor. But they were jealous, and they kind of like teamed up against me essentially. And they were pretty much bullying me, so I was like really subconscious about how I looked, and I honestly wanted to have a 6-pack because that was so important to the coaches, to have a 6-pack through your leotard at 9 or 10. Like, that's not normal. Like, I'm telling you. Like, I shouldn't be knowing how to diet at 10. And that's stemmed from gymnastics. Like, yes, my parents were in bodybuilding and all that. So, like, I knew how to eat healthy. But my parents never were like, it wasn't like that. Like, where they were, like, telling me to eat healthy to look a certain way. Let's put it that way. Like, I didn't know I was dieting, really, because my parents were eating healthy all the time. But, like, I didn't know that salmon, cauliflower, and like sweet potato was like dieting. This is just was good, tasted good to me at night. I don't know. But eventually it became like it was about like how I'm supposed to look too, not just how it's fueling me for my sport. Is like how you look.
Yeah.
So I don't really think gymnastics is like, I just think it's not a good sport personally. It's put me through a lot of anguish and hell, but it's also made me who I am today. So like I don't regret it. But like I think I would have been a lot different if I didn't do gymnastics. So that's where I'm coming from. Like I kind of like am thankful that I did gymnastics, but at the same time, like I would never do that to my kids.
Yeah.
I think it forces you to grow up a lot, but it also shelters you at the same time. Yeah.
I love that. I love all everything that you said, and I can it just makes it much more yeah, you're able to
Like for example, like I did gymnastics with Allie Raisman, who was the one that came out with like the sexual allegations. Yeah, so like I didn't do gymnastics directly with her, but she was in the same like group of in the region. So she was like in one of the states that was close to my state, and in her gym there were like 3 girls that were amazing, and she was one of the 3, but she was like the worst out of the 3. So I think personally, like the other 2 probably got more psychologically like pushed by the coaches that they probably dropped out, where Allie was probably like trying to keep up with them and then didn't get pushed as hard, and so she kind of like was able to get through it mentally, because gymnastics it's actually a lot more mental than it is physical.
Yeah.
Now physically obviously that comes with it too. So I had bad coaches. That I had a really bad injury that I could have probably wore a brace on my ankle for like a month and I would have been fine, but instead they kept telling me I was not injured and didn't need to go to the doctor or anything. So I kept competing like that for like 2 months, and by the time I got help with my ankle, I had a fractured ankle, a bone bruise, strain, sprain. Like basically it was so bad that it was like always going to be a problem for the rest of my life. It still is a problem. And then it's like goes back and forth from one ankle to the other ankle because I had to compensate for that bad ankle. So I just kept hurting my ankles like the whole time from 15 to by the time I quit gymnastics at 17 or almost 18.
Yeah. I was thinking that, it's funny because when, we go through any type of a struggle, and as an adult, you can look back and say, like, I wish things didn't happen that way, but that's what made me who I am. But I also think like there's better ways to
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Right.
So like, and when you're, if you're a parent someday, you say like, I'm not going to put my daughter in gymnastics, but I'm going to make sure that she has ways that she has to struggle in order to grow, but also that are age appropriate, which is like probably for lack of a better term, like kind of the most disturbing about all of it, right? It's just but I mean, there's, like I said, there's a lot of things that I can look back at through my childhood and just go, I mean, even stuff they're talking about now, like community showers and stuff like that in high school, and now talking about how that's really weird.
My mom used to talk about that too. I'm like, what do you mean you used to get naked? Like you all were just like naked, and like that's so like not acceptable now.
Well, and it shouldn't be, right? Like that's just,
I mean, I feel like it could and it can't. Like if it's considered like not weird to like see each other naked because it's like no big deal, I guess it's kind of like when we're backstage, honestly, and we just have to like change real quick, and we're like, whatever, here's my boobs. Like we all have them. That's kind of where it's at that point. Like it's either that or it becomes like weird. Like why? Like I don't know. I don't know. It's either one. I feel like there's like no in between.
Yeah, I think the way that the world is going now, I think there needs to be a lot more individual privacy.
I don't know. I just think there's too much there's too much security, almost like too much, but then there's like not enough privacy at the same time. So it's just like,
well, it's what is weird, like maybe having, like, we would all shower after swim practice in the community.
Well, I think nowadays the problem is like all these like, what are we supposed to be accepting and not accepting in the gender roles and all the stuff that's going on? I honestly don't even know, like to the point, because like I'll hear parents complaining about this and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't even know what they're talking about. And I'm like, I mean, am I supposed to be judgmental about that? Because like I feel like now, like someone might judge me for saying I'm being judgmental that a kid needs a litter box in the bathroom. Like me personally, I think that's crazy.
Right.
So like I don't care if somebody wants to judge me because I think somebody thinks their kid's a cat. I'm sorry, but I didn't go to school with any kids that thought they were a cat. And everybody's fine that I went to high school with.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just talking, I had this conversation twice about that, because my daughter goes to the private school and
Mhm.
it's been expensive for me to send her there. But the alternative is, in the last 2 years now, the closest public school, like you said, they put litter boxes in the bathrooms for the kids that identify as furries. And I was talking
Yeah,
with
like this is, to me, like I've never heard of such a thing. I mean,
no,
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it. Honestly, I've heard of it.
yeah,
But it's so like rare, and you're older. Like it's supposed to
yeah.
be like, I don't
Well,
know.
it's like what you said
Get a
about, like,
psychologist.
it's like what you said about, it all comes down to the parents, right? Like the parents are allowing.
Well, here's the thing that I like. I wanted to be a psychologist, so like for me, this is like a really great topic.
Yeah,
I think anybody should do whatever the hell they want to do. But I think society-wise, it's like saying you need to wear a bra or a shirt when you go outside. Like I can't go outside without a shirt on and expect not to get arrested. Like why should you have to like? Why can't you just act like a normal person at school? Use the toilet like a normal person at school, and that's what you do when you're at school. It's like when you're in jail. Like you can't just run
yeah,
amok when you're in jail. Like there's law, there's rules. Like so when you're
yeah,
outside of that rule, like you can do whatever you want. That's
right.
just my opinion. If you want your kid to do that, and that's fine. In the house, fine. But at school, I think you should act a certain way. That's just me, though.
Well, this is what I said to my daughter's principal. I said, if I was the principal of that school, I would be like,
Mhm.
well, we don't have, cats don't go to school. So your child
Right.
is not, either they act like a child when they're here, or like,
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I totally agree. I don't know. Good thing. I mean, it's a good and bad thing that I'm not a parent right now. Because obviously I want to be a parent, but who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years,
well,
or
and
even less. Well, by the time I have kids and go to school, they'll be that age. But
so funny. But as a parent, I always like, because so many people have said to me too, like, I don't even know if I'd want to raise a child in this day and age. But I think if
yeah,
you're of
people
sound
say,
mind, it's, if you're of sound mind and you have somebody that you want to raise a family with, then I think that I would encourage you to take on that endeavor, because we need people to be raising children correctly who are willing to step up for that challenge. And obviously you're that type of person, because you have stepped up to the challenge your whole life, right?
thank
So
you.
it's just,
No, that's very well said. Yeah.
it's just one more thing where you have to put a lot of energy towards in order to get a good outcome, and make good choices along the way, like anything in life. So
Exactly. Like you can't control what's going to happen from today to tomorrow. Like that's one thing my mom always told me. Like tomorrow is not guaranteed. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Like that's, I mean, it's like from the best things to the worst things, really.
yeah, 100%. And too, I mean, that's like, everybody tries to control all the variables with contest prep and everything else, and then you can't
Like
control
yeah. For
the
example, like I was just thinking about this the other day. So like my boyfriend was competing at the Arnold UK, and like I wasn't gonna go, but I was gonna go. And then like even let's say I was competing that weekend. Well, I had a crown on one of my teeth, but it randomly got an infection out of nowhere. So like I can't imagine if like that was like me going to the Olympia, and then like Monday before the Olympia or Tuesday have an emergency tooth extraction or something, and now I'm on antibiotics, and like there's so many things that could happen. Even he was like throwing up the night before because he had like I was like, what, maybe you ate bad chicken? Like there's so many different things that you just can't control. And so if you're lucky to get on stage and be your best that you can be, besides everything that went happen, besides like the whole long road of prep, you're lucky to just get on that stage and have like a smooth sailing the week of the show, the day of the show, etc.
I'm huge into not like not trying to, like you said, like if something had happened with your tooth or whatever, like I'm huge into like not getting super upset about something and just like dealing with it and moving on. Like we had a huge snowstorm here last like 2 days, and my daughter had planned to go to a college visit. We had an hour drive, and obviously we couldn't go, and she was really, really upset about it. And finally, I said to her, because it was the night before, and I said, look, we're not going tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I'm not making the drive. And she was just like, well, I can barely take time off school now because I'm so busy, and she's going on and on and to me, it's always just like, you don't know, like that could have been our death. Like, what I mean? Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
To me, it's just like when something doesn't work out, I don't
It's for a
change
reason.
that. You just move on.
My dad is very, he's like super advocate on that. Like he's so positive, and he just like will always say something like that. Like, well, like, cause I'm sometimes like that. Like, cause I know how your daughter gets. Like, I'll get like worked up, but I'll only do it to my parents, which is funny, cause I won't do it to anyone else. So then they'll be like, all right, like my dad will just be like, all right, like my parents call me Gigi. It's just like, all right, Gigi, like it could have been worse. Like this could have happened, that could have happened, and it's just like, all right, you're right. Like I could relax now.
Yeah,
I just think everything's always meant to be the way it's supposed to. So like if something bad happens, something good happens, like it's always just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's talk about, I want to talk about, the last Arnold, because
Sure.
this was like, your routines are always great, but this was
Thank you.
when I saw it, I was just like, I think Anna was watching with me, and I was just like, she won. Like she won, like we knew
Thank you.
before it even happened.
Thank
It was
you.
so amazing. So a couple of things happened, and I'm going to try to, I haven't, I've often gone to people's Instagrams. I've never gone to YouTube, but I want to try to go to YouTube and bring up the YouTube video. And then we can get it there if that's okay with you, because that's your YouTube.
Yeah, of course.
And then, one of the things that that was crazy was the conditioning that, let's see. All right, so here we go. Your conditioning for this was definitely your best conditioning to date, right?
Thank you. Yes, for sure.
Let's go back to just seeing your
There's probably a better video of this on Instagram, but I had this on my camera, so I used it.
Welcome from Newark, New Jersey.
So conditioning was unbelievable. This was like, so for people who don't know, how tall are you?
I'm like a little shy of 5 feet.
Okay. And
That.
what were you, do you know what you weighed in at this morning of the Arnold?
I think I weighed 120 point something, but like it was like around 120.
Okay. And
Maybe
then
I was 121. Like it was like 120 or 121, something like that.
So your routine was from the Terminator, right?
Yeah.
And who
like I have to watch this routine. I mean, I have to watch this in the non-times lapse so I can figure out how to do this for the Olympia again.
Are you?
I guess that I gave that away.
Oh, so I wondered if you were going to do the same.
There is parts of this that are new, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't have said that, to be honest, because I know people are like either going to be happy or not happy. But I spoke to the judges, and like they kind of were telling me like why. I've only done it once, and I mean nobody's really seen it. Personally, I love this routine. It means a lot to me. And I just feel like I could change my routine, and then they could say like this one was better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't personally, when I got off stage, I was like, I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe I just screwed up this and I did that wrong. And I did, I'm not even kidding. So like, to me, I was like, I feel like it could be a lot better.
Well, there you go. So who is this helping you with your makeup?
I did my own makeup, honestly, but then I just wanted her to like touch it up.
Okay.
This is Maximum Beauty.
Okay.
They are my makeup sponsors, or they were my makeup sponsors. And so like, I just kind of was asking them to touch it up for me. And also I needed to get my hair braided for my routine round when I can't braid my hair. So I had to go back anyway.
Okay.
I was like, had them help me.
Okay. Let's take a look at, I want to take a look at some of your routine here, and then I will link this YouTube as well when we post a podcast so that people can see. But let's find a good.
Looks so cool with those contact though. It's funny when I watch this now.
Get it. It's unbelievable.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna pause it there. I want to leave a little bit for people to.
Is there audio like on your podcast? Is it just audio or is there video too?
It'll be, the video will be up and it's on. I'll post it on my YouTube so then people
Okay.
see this as well, and I'll make sure I link your YouTube and everything. So
I was just curious because I'm like, then nobody's gonna think we're talking for like 2 minutes.
they should. I don't know how it's gonna come out if they can like hear the music.
Oh, the music in the background. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's really funny because the music is so iconic too, right? Like you just know that's from Terminator when you hear it.
Thank you.
So yeah, and you, like you said, you can make improvements on it. I don't think that there's, I mean, like I said, it was just exponentially, not that
Like kind of like well, thank you so much for these compliments. I guess I'm like always like, because I love fitness so much, and like I'm just such a perfectionist, honestly. Just with me, with anybody, when I watch anyone's routine, I'm just like this could have been better, and I'm like, you could have done this with your music, and like I have so many ideas for every single girl, like, and I'm just like, why wouldn't you do that? In my mind, it's like the first thing I would think of. So like I'm just like, okay, like unless you ask me for advice, I'm not gonna give it to you, but but like to me, I truly feel like there's certain performers, and Oksana is one of them, that it doesn't matter what skills you're doing. And I think that's like what is not emphasized in fitness is like, yes, I have like incredible skills. I know that. And Oksana has incredible skills. Missy has incredible skills. Like all the top girls have incredible skills. I mean, that's an obvious thing. So it can't come down to the skills because we're not getting judged on skills like gymnastics. Like, so if you do like a triple full on stage, like that shouldn't really, like it should be rewarded, but like actually the routine as a whole, that was a really cool move, but the whole routine was boring. I couldn't even watch it for 2 minutes. Like that's a major problem. So my point is like performing is to me a part of the judging criteria that is not really explained very well. Like when you're in the audience, you don't know anything about fitness. You're not going to go, wow, that's like, yeah, a couple of skills you're going to go, wow. But most of the skills are going to look the same. Like, so it's just like, what is somebody in the audience going to remember? Like who's going to be remembered and why?
Yeah. Well, if you think about, you know, like I had said to you before, I mean, I you know, there's no animosity or hate or shame or whatever, but Oksana she's always been a favorite. And because when you watch her, you get sucked in, she's telling this story, and for a minute, like the whole world is just gone and that's all you see. And, you know, Whitney Jones had said to me too, she's like, I'll be doing skills and I'll have my boys watch and I'll be like, oh, I learned this new skill. And they're like, you know, and then I'll do something that isn't that difficult, but it looks really cool. And they're like, that's awesome. You should do that.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. I'll try to send a skill to like an average person and I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, that gave me chills. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because that really wasn't that hard. But I'm like, okay, guess I'll use that. Because that was like, obviously says something if you think it's cool. Or like I have a new move in my routine. So I'm like, I send it to like a couple of secret people and I'm like, just randomly to see what they're, like, just like, you know, that emoji that's like this. So I'm like, okay, or they're like, that's super sick. Or like, I'm like, okay. These people don't know anything about fitness. Like my coach, I mean, he's like the worst one. He literally knows nothing about fitness. Like he'll even say that. Like as far as the physique goes, he's perfect for me. But the routine, he's just like, yeah. And I sent it to him and he was even like, that's super sick. And I'm like, okay, if he's saying something. Because when I showed him my routine before the Arnold, he didn't know anything. He was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah. Like he was basically acting like, I'm like, okay, thanks for the encouragement. Because like, you're making me want to terminate you too. That's funny. But
Well-
I just like I get so into that routine, the Terminator routine. Like I can't wait to do it again, even when I just talk about it. Like I've never felt that way about any of my routines. In fact, I don't really like doing a lot of my routines. Like I wouldn't like it. I would just be like, feels like a job or something. Like yeah, I'm doing it, but like to me, my most embarrassing routine was a 2021 routine. And I guess it was because I just like, it's just like, yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't me.
What was that one?
So at the Arnold, what happened was my normal costume girl like couldn't help me that year, and I had to use somebody else. And then they sent me the costume like a week before the Arnold, and it was horrible. And I was just like, I don't even know in my mind like what I was thinking. Like I just didn't have a choice. Like, but when I went backstage and put the costume on, like I usually feel like I'm like so badass just standing there with the costume on, like without doing anything. I'm like, this is super cool. That costume, I felt like I can't wait to get out of this. So like it didn't start off right, like the feels.
Yeah.
And then literally it was like 2 weeks from the Arnold to the Olympia, and I had to change my routine and my costume within a week because it's 2 weeks, but you're going to Orlando in a week. So it was a week that I had to come home. I mean, I literally did not sleep, change my music, change my routine, change my costume, all within a week because I had to leave to go to Orlando in a week. So I've never been more stressed out in my entire life. So after that, I was like, I'm doing Terminator for the Arnold. I'm doing it. Because I knew in my mind I was always going to do Terminator, but I didn't want to do it until I knew it was going to be perfect. Because I did Predator, and I also didn't want to do Terminator right after Predator, because then I was like, they're just going to think that's all I know how to do. Especially when, like, I didn't win anything with Predator other than, like, regular pro shows. Like, I still placed 7th at the Olympia the year before. I placed 7th again with Predator. Like, nothing improved. So I was just like, whatever. I'm not going to do Terminator. Like, I want to do Terminator when I'm going to win the Arnold. That's what I told myself. And so, like, I was at the point where I felt like this is my shot to win the Arnold. And, like, I knew I had it. In my mind, I knew, but I also knew that it could never happen. And I was okay with that. Like, I tried my best at that point. I knew that that was going to be the best I could try to win the Arnold. So if I didn't, like, so be it. That's how I felt. That's kind of where I feel about the Olympia this year. Because there's truly nothing else I could have done this year. Like, in my heart, I know that's true. There's a lot more I could do for the Arnold coming up next year. But as far as this year goes, honestly, there was nothing else I could do. And I say that genuinely. There's a lot of things that happened this year that I haven't spoken about and I probably will never speak about. And it's just, I'm lucky to be on the Olympia stage this year. And I feel that I have a refreshed look at competing. And so I don't really care about the outcome. I'm doing the best that I can. And that's like, I say that every time, but like this time I really mean that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're so excited. I mean, so Whitney's obviously not going to be there this year. She announced that like a week ago or so. She's actually going to be podcast in about a week. And
so me and Whitney are actually on the same, we're the same team, supplement team. We're both sponsored by BSN. So I didn't text her immediately because I figured she's probably getting like a million texts. But I texted her actually just, it was either yesterday or 2 days ago. I really was upset to see that she was out of the Olympia.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are your top, you, Whitney, Missy, I mean, even Kate is out now because of her whole breast implant issue.
Kate's always like, I feel so bad for Kate. She never has it easy. There's always something going on with Kate. Like, and not her fault. It's just.
No.
And she troops right through it like nothing. I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow. Give her credit, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, when this is your, like we had kind of talked about before we got on, like you only have a window of time to be competing. And so when you run into these,
I mean,
a breast
I guess honestly, when you look at the division, I'm 30 and then Oksana and Whitney are like 45. So, I mean, I guess I could be competing for another 15 years. But in my mind, I've been competing since I'm 11. So that's 20 years or more of competing. I'm just like, to be honest, like my body can't take this that much longer. If I really want to have kids, like I can't be doing this that much longer. Like, I'm just being honest. It's just like, you can't be competing, having a family, having kids. Like, I can have kids and then come back. But like, obviously there's a time and place to do things, like when I went to college and came back. Like, it doesn't mean I have to be away from the industry if I decide I want to have a family and not compete. But like, it's just like, I don't want to necessarily win the Olympia 10 times in a row. Like, could it be done? Probably. Like, realistically, I could keep doing that until I get there. But like, that's a matter of sacrificing my whole life for that, and that's a choice you make, like, to be honest. I mean, that's just not the choice I want to make, and I'm at the age where I'm able to make that choice. Like, I said to myself, by the time I'm 30, like, if I don't win the Olympia, and I said this when I was competing at 23, like, I should probably consider moving on from this, because it's been my dream to win the Olympia. Like, I made it to the Olympia every year I've competed. Like, and I maybe take that for granted a little bit, because a lot of people are like, they want to make the dream of just making it to the Olympia. I've done that 5 times now. So, I mean, for me, it's like, wow. But now every time I would come back, it was like, can I place top 5? Can I place a little higher? So I've already placed top 5 twice. I really want to win. I mean, that's really what I want to do. I don't really care to place 2nd, 3rd, and 4th again. Like, I'm being honest. Yeah. So it's at the road where it's either I'm going to win or I'm not going to win. And, you know, we're there right now. We're just going to see what happens.
I feel like there's like the 3 stages. There's the, yay, I'm so glad to just make it to the Olympia. And then there's like, now my goal is to make it into the top 5. And then,
I mean, it kind of depends. Like, I really feel like as an athlete, you should know your place. So it really bothers me, because like, I one time had a really good friend that was competing. We're not good friends anymore, but she does figure. And like, realistically, she's never going to be a top like competitor. Like, she's very lucky if she makes it to the Olympia. Like, and it was just like reality that I was just like immediately talking about how probably going to win the show and make it to the Olympia. And like, I didn't think she was going to like take offense to that, because I just felt like it was like the reality of the situation. It wasn't like I'm trying to like be like, look at me, I'm making it to the Olympia. It was like, this is just like what's going on kind of thing. Like, it wasn't. So like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess my point is like, I take it for granted, or like, you should know your place, because like as an athlete, you should really know like where you're going to. Not like, you shouldn't place last and expect to have gone into the show and place first.
yes.
Like, you should know where you're probably going to place. Like, why is that so difficult to know?
Yeah. You know, John and Renee Jewett had it was a YouTube video I just was watching yesterday, and they were talking about that, like kind of like how old is too old to be competing, and when you should hang it up. And I
feel like it's very different. Like, for me, for example, at 30, like, my body's a little older than someone that didn't start competing at 11, because obviously, like, if you started working out at 30, then your body's like set point is you're going to be older by the time you reach your maximum. For me, I'm going to hit that sooner than somebody like that's like, I don't know when Whitney started working out or doing this. Like, I think she was around my age, for example. Yeah. So like, so her to have her best, like, to be a lot older than me is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Or like,
I think it definitely varies, but looking at what you had said, if you're just doing it to compete, you know, and this is what John and Renee were saying, like, if you just like competing and that's your expectation, then that's fine. And
that's true too. Like, yeah. Like, if you just want to compete because you like it, that's totally up to you. Like, for example, Debbie Fowler, who made it to the Olympia, I think she was 55 or 56.
Okay.
Like, that's like incredible that she was honestly on the fitness Olympia stage at that age. She didn't go there thinking she's going to place top 10 even, like, and I'm saying top 10, and there's only 15 girls.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being she was being realistic. Like, I'm lucky I'm on the freaking stage.
Right.
So like, you got to know where you're coming from, like where you're going to, you know.
Yeah. But if you keep placing, you know, if she's going to come back year after year after year thinking that eventually she's going to make it to top 5 or win, then obviously it's kind of like what you said. You have to be.
No, like, she hasn't been competing since. Like, she made her goal, and that was that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like too, with this sport, it's so taxing on the body that I think you really need to evaluate, like you said, what are you sacrificing in order to have, you know, whatever this goal is or whatever. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously healthier ways to do it, and it's like, everybody's different.
Yeah.
Because like, for me, I put all my eggs into this basket when I'm competing, when I'm prepping. Like, I don't necessarily, it's healthy, but it's not healthy, because like, I don't really want to think about anything else other than that. And so like, that's just me though. I'm going to do that with anything.
Yeah. Well,
like, if I was trying to be successful with the business, I'm trying to be successful in gymnastics. Like, that's just how I am. So, I mean, I know that's how I am, but like, other people, they might not handle it as well, or some people just handle it better than others. Like, I'm very easygoing when it comes to my prep. Like, I've seen other people that aren't. Like, easygoing in the sense that, like, if somebody wants to go train with me somewhere, I don't care if I have to drive or like take my food or like make my meal at 6 or 7. Like, I'm kind of like, I'm not like that. But some people are like really like insane about their prep, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not really like that, but I guess it's also practice. I've been doing this so long that to me it's like not that, like it's hard, but it's not that hard. It's just a matter of like how you make it work.
I think because you went through gymnastics, you're like, this isn't so bad.
Well, that too. I think I was talking about that with someone. I'm like, well, I used to wake up, do cardio, go to school, literally leave school with my mom, go straight to gymnastics, and straight from gymnastics to the gym, and then from the gym home. Like, I'm lucky if I even can eat and shower and like do my homework.
You know
Like
what?
study. That was like, how am I going to study? Where and when am I going to study?
I can't believe that that was the other thing I was going to ask you. And I said I had two things, and I was just like, how on earth did you do that through high school? Like, that's like,
Honestly, I don't know. Like when I look back, I'm like, I honestly have no idea. Because like I somehow like I didn't have a 4.0, I had like a 3.8 or something. Like, but like I didn't really study. I did whatever I had to do, obviously, but like I didn't really put my like I didn't really like school was like I was just good enough to like have to do what I needed to do for gymnastics to get into like school. But I really was obviously good in school because I got into Rutgers and I also was going to get into Brown. So it's not like my grades were bad, obviously. But I mean, my point was I didn't like study, so I could have been a lot better in school. Like by the time I was in college, like I had to actually learn how to I had to teach myself how to study, like because I didn't know how. I just was doing what I was doing because I was smart enough, I guess. Like I don't want to be like bragging, but I guess I was just honestly retaining the information enough to get by with like almost all A's.
what did you, when you got to college and then you weren't doing gymnastics anymore, you must have been like, what do I do with all this time? Like, did you have so much time? Like,
I mean, to be honest with you, my first year I kind of went crazy. Like everybody said that you should, like exactly what they said was probably going to happen is exactly what happened. Like literally partying like all the time, like going out. Like I had like no friends in high school. Like I barely did anything. Like I made sure I was friends with like everybody, and like I was always going out. And then I had enough of that freshman year, and then sophomore year I was like literally like didn't go out, studied. Like I was completely opposite. Actually, by second semester, I kind of had to get my act together, to be honest. So I mean, I had to do that in order to like learn too.
yeah.
Like I didn't realize what I was there for, because what happened was I went to school and then I was supposed to do gymnastics, but then I didn't end up doing gymnastics. So it was like, yeah, you're right. Like now I do have all this free time. So I was busy making friends and acting social, to be honest.
Yeah. What did you end up going to school for? What were your degrees?
I was a psychologist. My degree was in psychology. I really thought I was going to go to graduate school to become a psychologist.
Yeah.
It's partly why I came to Florida, because I wanted to get a certain degree in psychology at Nova Southeastern, which is here in Florida. But I got into the audiology field because of a family member, actually. And I just was like, okay, well, I guess I could try it before I decide to go to graduate school, because that's like a long road, obviously. And then I realized my job was actually a lot like psychology, and I was pretty much making like pretty kind of similar amount of money that I would be making if I, like, not really, but like the school process and all that, like the headache was like kind of worth keeping the job, because I can always still go to school.
Yeah.
I honestly think my laptop's going to die. Let me get my charger.
Okay. Should have a little music for everyone to.
I apologize.
Oh, it's totally fine.
That's very unlike me.
I know mine's plugged in, and I had that before where the charger came out of the wall, and I thought I lost a podcast because all of a sudden it just went.
I thought this laptop had better battery life when I bought it, but
it really
it's good for editing.
just, like, suck it. They just suck the life.
Yeah, well, when you're doing videos, they really drain the battery.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's what I was curious about, what you went to school for.
Yeah, so I was a psychology and sociology major, which was actually like very hard to do sociology with psychology, because sociology you have to look at it so broadly. But yeah, I didn't really like sociology. I was more of a psychology person.
Yeah. That's really, my mom is a behavioral therapist, and I love talking about that type of stuff with her and human behavior. And I mean, even with me, I love these one-on-one interviews and just getting to know people and stuff like that.
Yeah. People are so different.
Yeah, how they tick is just incredible, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, do you have time for some fun questions before
Yeah, of course.
we go? All right, awesome. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but you know, I always ask people like, what is the best and worst thing about social media according to them?
Okay. So the best thing about social media is being able to put yourself out there, whether you're a person or a business. I think that it's incredible that you can reach the masses that way to expand and honestly make money and make a life for yourself that really couldn't be done without social media. I think that's pretty amazing. I really do think there's a lot of negatives that come with social media, though. I think honestly, most else I think is negative. Like I do think it's negative to have to constantly put yourself out there to put yourself in the light, for example, to be a certain way or to worry about what other people are going to think of you. Obviously, not everybody worries about that, but I really think it's like it's just inevitable. Like it's like going outside. Like, are you going to go outside wearing pajamas or are you going to wear clothes? Like, it's just how you're going to be presented. And I think that sometimes it's just you have to put yourself out there too much and be subjected too often. And I think that's a problem. Or that people care too much about how many likes they have or like how many people care about what they're doing instead of them worrying about what they're doing.
Yeah. Don't you think too, like that's even more like plaguing the younger generation because they're growing up with like in a fishbowl, basically, right? Everybody knows what
Well, they're constantly on Snapchat, which is like I didn't realize like a kid thing now. But like it's just like the filters. Like I remember even it started with MySpace when people would just like filter their eye color. Like it's starting to the point where it's like to the point where your whole face has changed, and then they go to the surgeon by the time they're 20, and they're like getting like everything done, and I'm just like, that's not reality. Like you look crazy. Honestly, you look good in pictures. You look crazy when you're talking. Like that's how I feel about most of these people.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know, like 10 years from now, because so much has happened in the last 10 years for, you know, remember when Instagram started?
Yeah, I do.
It was
a lot
like,
has changed since. I know. I wonder too, like where it's gonna go.
yeah, I try to like, so I put a 15-minute limit on my apps that I tend to find myself scrolling on so that I have to log in every time.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it really limits me to an hour or less a day. Like the only time I take that off is if like I have to post a podcast and I know I'm going to be on the app longer. Otherwise it'll like, it locks me out.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think that's like part of the problem for someone like me where we have to be on there. It's like technically my job.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's part of our contracts and stuff like that. So it's just become, it's so integrated now that it's like, you have to be on there. Like if you want to do anything with the sport.
Yeah. I know. I think Matt Jansen said one time too that he's like, I limit my time. I just go on there to post. He's like, I don't ever get stuff or scroll. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's where you waste your time is you get caught and you go down a rabbit hole and like, I don't know. I do that with Google though. If I Google something and then like, what about this paper? What about this paper? And then
That's
I'm like
funny.
reading all these, whatever it was.
It's probably better than scrolling on social media.
At least I'm learning something, right? Like,
really delving in.
yes. So what does your training split look like? And not just like, maybe not now necessarily, in the depths of prep, but like regularly. Yeah.
When I'm not prepping, typically I do shoulders twice a week, back maybe twice a week, and legs once a week.
Okay.
That's how I would allocate my training split. And then I kind of do like arms in between that. So for example, like I don't really hit biceps much at all or triceps really, but like I might do it when I'm like standing around waiting to do another set on a cable. For example, when I'm on a back day or like I guess I don't really do it much on shoulder. Yeah, maybe sometimes on a shoulder day, but it's mostly on a back day since I do a lot of like rope pull downs.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, if I'm doing like something with rear delts on the cables, I'll instead of waiting around, like I do like tricep extensions or something. So I'm not really training like a set arm day or like a set, arm day. I don't have for sure a set day for. So I'm doing 2 shoulder days, 2 back days, and then like 1 leg day. So about 4 or 5 days a week. Like if I have to take anything off, like it would be like an extra shoulder or back day or something, like in the off season, sometimes I just don't care. Well, the other thing that changes is like prep. I don't train legs as much or at all because they stay swollen really long time. So like off season, I don't care if my legs are swollen, so I'll train legs like at least once a week. Like I like training legs. It just sucks because I can't really train them. That's like one of the things I can't do actually. My legs will just grow. Like I'll be like wellness by tomorrow if I keep doing if I train legs.
Maybe if you like, you know, you get your Fitness Olympia title for a couple of years, you can take time off, have your family, and then you can come back and do wellness because it's less taxing on your body.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see.
It's really funny. That would be really cool. It would be that'd be such a like, oh, Ariel's back. Wait, what? She's doing wellness now. Okay.
Well, I'd have to like not train arms the entire time I'm pregnant because I worked so hard to get my arms and backs bigger. I mean, not my arms, but like to get my upper body wider and like more jacked. It took me a long time.
That's funny. Yeah, I hate training. And like, even if I do train like biceps or triceps, there's only like 2 exercises for each that I actually will do. I just go to the ones that I feel the best with. There's no variety. I hate training arms.
That's funny. I mean, I don't have to train arms and they get so big so fast and then my shoulders look small. So for me, it's just like fine tuning my physique really at this point. But I think if it's like somebody else, like people should train their whole body. I think when you're at this point, like where you have to refine like to this extent, that's when you could do what I'm doing. Yeah. So sometimes I feel like it's hard to say like, what's your training split? Because like one person might have to do something completely different than another person. Yeah. Like for example, Michaela Acock, I saw her training split and I was like, what are you doing? Wellness? Like she literally trains like wellness. She just basically doesn't train up her body at all. Like I have to do the complete opposite of that.
Yeah. So I mean, for people who are listening, obviously this is what, you know, Ariel at the professional level at this point is, like you said, this is where it is actually bodybuilding, because you are now at the point where you have to, like, you grow what you need to grow and you don't train which is kind of mind-boggling to a lot of people. But people who are just starting out, you just want to get bigger, so you're hitting everything.
Like even like a wellness competitor, like they're like, oh no, but we only need like glutes and hamstrings. But if you've never trained, like you definitely need to train your upper body. Like what are you talking about?
Yes.
And then obviously the more muscle you have, the better your metabolism is going to be. There's a lot of metabolic things that happen when you have muscle. Like it's just not like you can't just like allocate muscle to like one area and not another.
Right.
But when you're at the point where your whole body's full of muscle, that's when you can kind of tailor it accordingly.
Yes, absolutely. You're elite.
I would say most competitors at a pro stage are at that elite level, like where your training is not going to be like a regular person going to the gym where you want to do everything.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. I mean, at this point too, you're not adding slabs of muscle on anyways. It's only a couple of pounds a year, if that. And plus, you know, every year I feel like the conditioning is a little bit more intense. And so, you know, weight wise, you might even be weighing less than the year before, even though you have like more muscle, because the level of conditioning has been, you know, so your conditioning for that Arnold was
Thank you.
That was the best I'd ever seen you, for sure.
You.
But it was just mind-boggling to see, like she doesn't have there's not fat anywhere. Like there's not a
Thanks, I guess. Thanks.
Yeah, it was great.
There's a way to do it, really. It's hard to get lean, but also stay not stay aesthetic, essentially.
Yeah. Do you feel like in order to get the body fat off your lower half, do you feel like you lose some of that upper? Are you that way or not so much?
I feel like my arms, the thing is, like, I don't have to be like where my glutes are shredded. So I'm just like lucky where my body doesn't have that huge problem. Like my legs are a little bit more behind than my upper body, but it's not like so much. Like the biggest is where my glutes are. And like, honestly, if it was any more shredded, like it'd probably be a problem. So I guess I'm kind of like lucky that I don't have to worry about like ever being too lean. It's just not my skin. My skin and my body type is just like not it's like just never going to be the case. I don't have that type of physique.
Yeah.
I have like super Middle Eastern skin, like where I just can't, almost like, honestly, like black people kind of have the same problem, like where your skin is just never like that super dry like a white person. So I don't have to worry about that, thankfully.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
I think it's honestly, in my case, probably an estrogen situation, which I'm not unhappy about, which, like, for example, I know this is something you probably talked about, at least maybe with someone on the podcast, but like girls tell me they don't get their period. And I'm just like, okay, like it's a major problem for me if I don't get my period. Like I got my period 2 weeks before the Arnold and I got it again exactly 3 weeks after the Arnold, like, or whatever it was, like exactly the same, like my cycle didn't change was my point. Like,
Wow.
that's like really unheard of, like really unheard of.
It is.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's like, it's a matter of also keeping like everything healthy. Like I don't like cut corners. Like I'm doing 2 hours of cardio or I'm doing 3 hours of cardio. I'm not like doing things that I shouldn't be doing. It's like, I want to look a certain way. I have to do what I need to do to look that way. And it's an athletic look and it takes a lot of time. Like if you see any elite athlete, they don't look that way because they're just doing nothing all day. I mean, they're in the gym 3 hours, 4 hours, or 5 hours a day.
Yeah. That's really,
I guess the formula at this point is not like, for everybody, it's kind of the same. It's like, yeah, you lower your calories and you lower your, you have to basically have a deficit at this point. And whatever is underneath that deficit, you're going to lose fat. You have the muscle underneath. For all of us, it should really be kind of the same formula with it. When you're at our point, at our level, like I know some people are doing like HIIT cardio versus non-HIIT cardio. And it's like, honestly, do whatever you want to do. That's how I feel about it. Like there's extremely making really complicated formulas. Like, and I've come down to the best formula is not making things complicated. Actually, it's just lower your calories, increase your cardio, like become more in a deficit, and that's how it works.
Yeah. That's really interesting though that I think you're one of the first ones to tell me, because most of the girls end up losing their period at least like, I don't know, around 2 months before. And then,
I mean, there's definitely been a time like where I've skipped a period or something, but like for me, it's like the only thing I care about. Like I make sure I have to get my period, or like my period, like I want to have children. Like that's a huge thing for me. Like, so, I mean, I don't know, like it's just, I think that has something to do with like metabolically, that my body's not all over the place, that I could get like literally lean and not like forcing myself to get to look a certain way.
Yeah. You are letting your body do what it's allowing it, and it isn't really fighting. So that's great. I think that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're going to have like 12 children.
I hope not. I'm like, no way. That would be pretty funny though.
So, like, damn, she's fertile.
I'd be like 45, 50 by the time I'd have the 12th. That's funny.
Yeah, you're right. That would be good.
My dad in Egypt. That's like a dream. Like they have like 6, 7 kids.
Wait, say it again?
My dad's from Egypt and he's like the youngest of 6. So I'm like, there, it's fine if you have like 12 kids. But I'm not in Egypt. You start when you're like 18, I guess.
That's crazy. Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. No, that's not.
Hey,
I think 3. Well, let's have one normal one, and then we'll be okay first. One normal and healthy.
You're an only child though?
Yeah.
He was like, I don't want 6.
What happened?
Your dad was like, I don't want 6 children. I just want.
Oh no. Well, my mom, she kind of had some issues, so they didn't really want a chance having another one, honestly. But my mom's always been like, never have one kid, like never have one kid. And like, I personally don't like, I don't know any difference, obviously, but like, I think it would have been easier if I had a sibling.
Yeah.
Like I think about those things, like what am I gonna do with like when my parents pass away, or like I don't have anybody else, or like, like I'm close with my parents, so it's like, I don't have anyone else other than my cousins. It's not the same thing though.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So I don't want that. I wouldn't want that for my kids, but like, God forbid, you're lucky to have one healthy kid,
Yeah, that's what.
If you could have 2 or 3 or 4, that'd be cool too. Kids are expensive though. That's really what I always tell somebody. I'm like, it's a matter of affordability, obviously.
Yeah, it is that. Yeah, they are expensive, but I know. I mean, I only had Anna, and I never really thought about her not having somebody after her parents are gone, or something like that part I never thought about really.
No, don't think about it.
Well, not her. I mean, I had a miscarriage before her and after her.
Okay.
So it wasn't for lack of trying. I would have liked to have like 4 kids,
Aw,
but she's
yeah, I
amazing.
honestly don't think I want to just have one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, you know, whatever God gives you, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what we said before. I mean, this is, yeah, you kind of just have to roll with whatever happens, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean by that. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But no, it's true. I think it is exactly like God knows how things are supposed to work out for you.
Exactly.
It takes a lot of pressure off of us as well if we can put it in somebody
Sure
else.
does. Yeah.
What is your favorite training day? What body part do you enjoy the most?
Honestly, I like training back the most. I don't know why, but I just feel like strong and I like training back. I
Yeah.
hate training shoulders. I don't know why. I hate training shoulders. Like every time I get like, some people get this on leg day where they get like anxiety before they get into the gym, but I get like that when I'm doing shoulders. Because like I've been doing the same, there's really not much you could do for shoulders. Like I've been doing the same workouts since I'm 15, and when you had to compete, you needed shoulders back then. So like that was like the one thing that was like that hasn't changed, is doing my shoulders. And it's just like, ugh. So yeah, I don't really like shoulder day, but back day is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, shoulders are kind of like, you're right. There's really a very little variety.
Yeah, like, and it just like, when you think about like destroying your shoulders, it's just like, doesn't sound fun to me at all. I'm just like, great. It sounds miserable.
I understand where the leg day anxiety. I get that. I'm just like, oh,
Like for me, I'm like, that sounds fun actually, because like I don't train legs, so I'm like, I want that. But then
yeah.
I don't like afterwards because I'm not gonna be able to walk for like 2 weeks. My legs are so swollen, I want to just like die.
You get a ton of leg activity with because you're practicing like stunts and stuff year round, are you not?
Honestly, I don't really practice my skills that often. I mean, what I'm really focused on when I train my skills is my handstand moves. So it takes more beating on my wrists actually than anything else. So it's hard actually when you're off season, because as the weight goes up, there's more impact on the joints. So I try not to actually do it as much, because I'm like, I know I could do my gymnastics. Been doing it for my whole life. Like, it's not like I need to worry about doing a cartwheel back handspring. Like, I know how to do that. So I'm just like, I try to like be like, it's okay mentally, like, you know what you're doing. I mean, my body physically should be able to like do it constantly, but I know in my mind, I'm like, it's better off that I don't hurt myself and not do it than it is to do it and hurt myself and cause more problems down the road. That's kind of how I feel about my wrist too. Like even now, like my handstands, I'm practicing and I'm starting to feel like there's something going on. I'm like, well, it's better I did 25 minutes of my routine practice than to keep going and hurt myself.
Yeah.
Like it's at that point where I'm getting a little older, and like I'd had gymnastics injuries, and you know, you got to worry about that more than you got to worry about like I can do the moves.
Yeah.
It's just like more injuries are way more taxing than anything else. Like that'll really take you out.
Oh yeah, for sure. So your off season is your training days, and then is that pretty much it? Like you're occasionally practicing, you doing any cardio?
Yeah, I do cardio almost every day. I have cardio. Like I'm just like one of those people that's like wakes up and does cardio every day.
Okay.
Like I'm kind of one of those people. Yeah, so I don't really skip like cardio is almost like sometimes higher in the off season, just because I'm like bored and have probably energy, and I'm like, well, I could just do cardio, and then I ate that donut, like I could do cardio. Like I'm just like, I don't know. So I'd probably almost do like just as much cardio sometimes.
Okay.
But oh my God, what did you ask me? Because I know you said something, and then I went off on a tangent about cardio.
What your off season looks like.
Oh, you said something about doing my skills off season. Yeah. So like, if I'm working on a specific move that in my mind I know I need to get, or like, then I'll do that move specifically. So like, there's like, I guess skill goals that I'm working on. But as far as like the stamina goes and like the gymnastics, like I'm like, yeah, that could take a back seat because I'm too fat right now. Like that's how I feel about it. It's not that I'm fat, but like I feel heavy. You know what I mean?
It's almost like for fitness, you really do need like an off-season break from the actual performance aspect of it, just so your body can like.
I mean, it's also like so different, honestly, doing the moves when you're even like 2 or 3 pounds different weight. So it's just like, even when I did gymnastics, like you didn't even realize because you're a kid, but like, let's say you like had something really salty and the next day you're like 3 pounds heavier, you go to do your bar routine and like everything's off. It's just like everything is off because like even like if I wear shoes that are a little bit too different or something and I'm doing my handstands, like your balance, everything is off. So it's like the more you are practicing, the better it is, just because like you can do it at any
Sure.
point. But honestly, like you're so far away from off season like than I am now that like I'm better off practicing now on certain skills than I am heavier because I'm just not going to be heavier when I'm on stage. But then there are other things like, for example, if I could do the handstands heavier, then I guess I'm strong because then when I'm lighter, or like that's kind of how a lot of them are looking at it. Like if you could do the gymnastics and all that stuff heavier, then it's easier when you're lighter. Yeah. That's true. But like I'm so conditioned enough already that like I have to worry about injuries more than I have to worry about like doing the moves, practicing.
Well, that makes a lot of sense for this especially. I remember I asked Oksana that one time too, just about like guest posing and stuff, and she said she didn't really love doing it because, like you said, there's more of a risk for injury and that type of thing because you're not performing with your same body.
I feel like for someone like Oksana or me, like our performance matters so much too that we want it to be so good and perfect that like we put so much emphasis on it, and like you don't want to hurt yourself, or like there's just so much that goes into it. Like I don't like doing guest posings either. Honestly, I honestly hate doing guest posings. Like I feel bad saying that because like I get asked and like I feel so bad that like I feel like it's such an honor to want to have somebody, you being asked to be there, and you know like. But I'm just like, it's so taxing for us as fitness competitors, especially as performers. You want to be perfect like every single time, and you're just like, my body's off. I don't have a 10. Like my routine costume doesn't even fit right now. Like there's a lot of things that go on, and not even just the routine.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, what was the last thing you ate last night before bed?
I had fish and cauliflower rice, and like maybe like I had the tiniest piece of avocado that I didn't want to throw out, so I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna put it in this food. That's what I ate. So 15 grams of avocado.
That's funny. So like, what is your favorite cheat meal, or what would your like last meal be?
Well, if I was like in jail and had to be my last meal, I'd probably be like a burger and fries, and then definitely ice cream. I love ice cream. Like I live on ice cream.
Really? What kind of ice cream?
But I love burgers and fries too. So, honestly, all ice cream. I like all ice cream. There's no specific one.
Discriminate.
No.
It's funny. Who's the most important person in your life?
That's a tough. I want to say myself, to be honest, but I would say my dad, because he's just honestly such an amazing person. Like it's really hard for me to say that about a lot of people. And he's the one person I could say like he's truly an amazing person. So he would definitely be the most important person in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Isn't it funny? I think about that too, like past generations, like just like they don't make people like my dad and my uncle passed away this past year, and I was like, they don't make people like that anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I feel like that's why we need like that's why I need to be a parent, because I need to make more good people like that. Or you hope so.
Yeah, I think you do too. Let's see. What's your favorite trait to find in people? What draws you to people?
I want to say like genuine, like someone being super genuine.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find though, which is why I don't really have a very big circle. It's rare to find someone who's truly genuine and like has the best intentions.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's incredibly, it's an incredible thing for someone to be that way. So like, for example, like I have a friend that might ask me like, how do you think I look? Like if I keep telling her I think she looks good, I'm lying to her. Like I want to see her do her best. So I'm going to tell her the truth. Like something like that. And I feel like that's just being genuine.
Yeah.
There's so many phony people out there that it's just like disgusting, to be honest.
It's hard to find, there's an element of unselfishness there too. And I think most people, I mean, we tend to be selfish people, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, I think that's why, like, for me, it's very hard sometimes to compete because I'm actually by nature not selfish. So like I know I'm being selfish when I'm competing. Like for me to be like, well, I have to worry about doing cardio and I have to worry about going, like, that sounds to me like so selfish and narcissistic, but it's like, no, actually, if I was any athlete in any sport, I'd have to go to practice, or I'd have to be like, sorry, I can't because I'm supposed to be doing this and this is for my goal right now. It's not going to be my goal forever. And that's honestly why I don't really want to compete when I have kids, because it is very selfish sport. And I'm just like, I don't really want to like do that and expose them to that. Like also like worrying so much about what I look like all the time. I think that's not necessarily healthy. Yeah.
no, I totally agree. And I know a lot of people do a great job balancing it, but I even remember
I definitely think it can be done. Like I think like realistically, like I'd have to be doing this for my sport, and that's why. It's not because like I wouldn't tell that to my kids. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna tell them, oh well, I'm not like I have to get leaner here and this and that. It's like not that's not, you don't want to go into detail like that, I guess. But it's just like there's being subjected to like everything about it.
Mhm. Yeah, like that's what I mean. As much as you try to hide it or whatever, Christina Bittner was talking about that with one of her daughters, that she was like asking if she was going to be able to eat the cake or whatever at her or whatever. And she
Yeah,
was
and
so
it's just
excited.
like you feel like
Yeah,
I remember like for me, for example, my mom was like super into working out, and like she'd have to like work out basically or do cardio in the morning or something, and like I just didn't understand like why can't like I don't know, like other moms just be like, okay, and they just like go out, but like my mom has to do cardio. Like I didn't understand that.
yeah,
Like I saw it, and then my mom wasn't even a competitor. Like she wanted to compete.
yeah,
So I just know what it's like firsthand, and I'm telling somebody wasn't even a competitor.
yeah. And well, and I think somebody like you who's probably much more aware of it would probably be able to balance it pretty well, even if you wanted to, just because you're so aware of it. But yeah, it is, you know.
Yeah, that's why I said like maybe if I have kids and down the line I decide like you want to go back to the stage, that's obviously something I would decide. But I want to make sure I check off the boxes that I definitely achieve the goals I want to before I go into that part, step into that part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you like about yourself and what do you not like about yourself?
Honestly, what I like about myself the most is I'm definitely extremely determined. Like nothing stops me when I really want to do something. I think that's definitely my best trait. My worst trait is that I'm also like just as hard on myself as I am like at pushing myself to get to the goal. So I'll beat myself up to the point where like it's so you're almost to the ground, but I made it to the get to the goal. Like I got to the goal. So I think it's just being a perfectionist is really one of my worst traits, as also some of the best traits that I have.
That makes a lot of sense. Is there any like weird guilty pleasure food that you're kind of embarrassed that you
This coffee creamer is like I'm obsessed with it. Like I literally take it with me to backstage at prejudging because I know I'm gonna get a coffee as soon as I leave backstage, and I'm gonna put that coffee creamer in my coffee because I haven't had it for like a week or two. So yeah, I guess that coffee creamer, sugar-free hazelnut coffee mate. And in case anybody wants to know.
a sponsor, right?
In case anybody wants to grab it for me before the Olympia. That's funny. Yeah, please sponsor me. It's owned by Nestle. I'm looking at it. That's why I'm doing that. Nestle can sponsor me. They can give me chocolate too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's really funny because like it's like people will be like, oh, I love coffee. And then
I really do love coffee, but no, specifically the coffee creamer.
I'm saying it's like, no, you like cream and sugar. You don't really like coffee.
Yeah, just the cream. It's funny because I'll either drink it black, like nothing in it, black, or like cream and like not sugar, but like cream and sweet, Splenda equal, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
No in between, just like how I am. These are black or white. You're in or you're out.
It's really funny. Oh, okay. Well, Ariel, what is your, if you have any final message for the women listening, either about competing or your journey or anything, what would you want to share with them?
I know it's been long that we've been on here. I just think it's very important to stay true to yourself. And that's like so easier said than done because sometimes you don't know if like like what your actual thoughts are even like leading you in the right place. If you ever get that like weird gut intention, like that gut feeling that like no, then just go with that because as a woman, like you just know if you're going down the right path or you're not. And sometimes you go down the wrong path even when you knew you shouldn't. But it's always a learning journey. So like never, like me, beat yourself up about it. It's always going to teach you something, and you're always going to move forward. And it's a matter of what you want to do. You can do it.
I love that. I love that. So, Ariel, where can people find you if they want to follow your journey and they're not already?
Sure. On Instagram, it's ITS Ariel Khadr. On YouTube, Ariel Khadr. You can contact me through email, DM, whatever you want, really. Probably best on Instagram or YouTube.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're so excited for you and your new and improved performance coming up in,
Thank you.
say 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah, like 3-4 weeks. It's getting so
Really
close.
awesome. And you know, I really want to plug the live stream for the Olympia if people can't go, because you know, if you can't get a seat up close at the Olympia, the live stream is like amazing.
I know. Like I kind of tell some people, I'm like, well, I mean, honestly, if you're sitting like really, really far from the stage, you're basically watching the live stream from the stage anyway.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to discourage people from getting a ticket, but I'm like, you're like, unless you want to like feel what it's like to be there, because that's obviously a huge change. But otherwise, the live stream is really good.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a good seat, sometimes the live stream's better.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely fun to go for the experience, like you said, especially because I mean, those
like, cause for example, like my coach said he watched my routine online and he was like, it was really good, but he was like, but it was so different in person. He was like, but it was just so different. I'm like, I don't know, because I wasn't watching from this. I would never be able to experience what that feels like.
That's so true. That is, yeah. You need like an out of body experience.
Yeah, that would be cool, actually.
Oh yeah, it isn't the same videoing. It's not the same. You know what? I think it would be really neat to be able to actually be in your body, to be able to know what it feels like. Like crazy.
Really, really surreal when you're on stage doing your routine at the like show. Like it feels so weird. Like you're like, this is the like I'm finally like it's like you're finally there and you're doing it and it's like really happening.
Well, we're so excited. We're so excited to watch you, and we
Thank
wish
you so
the
much.
best. And
Thank you for having me on.
yeah, smooth sailing next 4 weeks.
Thank you.
So, all
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thanks everybody for watching and listening to another episode of the Women's Fittest. You can find me on Instagram at buffcake22, and you can follow the podcast at the Women's Fittest. And look wherever you listen to podcasts. So you can also find this episode on YouTube at buffcake22. And remember that healthy looks different on everybody. Have a great day.